In this video, we will be showing you some of the rare photos of the legendary Joan Baez while sharing some of her untold life stories with you. Coming from a family of inventors and mathematicians, it's almost impossible to predict Joan Baez becoming the legendary singer she is today. But while she achieved some of her dreams by becoming a singer, it also led her down a path that made her life one of the most miserable in the music business to date. How? We will cover that plus other crazy untold facts about her in this video while showing you some of her rare photos. Joan started her 1987 memoir with the phrase, "I was born gifted." And as the chapters that followed revealed, she was only talking about her voice. Her childhood and the rest of her life were far from all she had wished for. Born into a family of scientists, Joan Baez counts herself lucky that her father would let her quit school to become a musician. Albert Baez was the co-inventor of X-ray, and Joan's cousin, John C. Baez, is a renowned mathematical physicist. As a child, Joan and her family were forced to move around a lot owing to her father's job with UNESCO. They lived across towns in the US, France, Switzerland, and even Iraq. But as miserable as this made her childhood, it was not even the part she hated the most. Baez struggled to understand racism as a teenager, so she would spend most of her life involved in social causes relating to racism and discrimination. She revealed that growing up, she constantly faced discrimination and racial abuse because of her Mexican heritage, and that was where all of the anger stemmed from. She committed her first act of civil disobedience as a high school girl when she refused to leave her classroom in Palo Alto, California for an air raid drill. While she was considered too young for serious penalties, Joan Baez kept up the energy, and in a few years, she would be sleeping in jail more often than any celebrity. Her passion for folk music started after she attended a Pete Seeger concert. Deeply moved by Seeger's expression of his art, Joan would decide there and then what she would be doing with the rest of her life. She first started by practicing most of his songs, then she would perform them before a small audience. Serious business started in 1957 after she bought her first Gibson acoustic guitar. Her family had to relocate again because her father accepted a role at MIT in San Francisco, Boston. This place was considered the heart of folk music, and as soon as Joan started public performances near her home, she would attract a very hungry crowd. The demands of her growing music career will eventually force her to quit college, and this meant that music had to work. Joan probably wasn't fully aware of the troubles that followed her chosen industry. If only she knew, maybe she would have sucked up to school. Joan had attempted an album-length demo tape after graduating high school, but not a lot of people were interested in that. So she was advised to switch her focus to live performances. By 1959, Baez was performing regularly at the most popular Cambridge folk venue, Club 47, and it was there that it all happened for her. A gig brought her together with American singer and the love of her life, Bob Dylan. Dylan was so impressed by her powerful voice that he invited her to duet with him on stage. Joan didn't fail to deliver, as she left her audience mesmerized, and they would even nickname her Madonna. Her performance with Dylan brought her first music contract with Vanguard Records, and so her professional career began. Joan recorded her first studio album in 1960, Joan Baez, and as powerful as it was not all she had expected, but it still got her an invitation to perform solo at the 1960 Newport Folk Festival. Her second release, Joan Baez Volume 2, was an even greater success. Baez continued her success streak with her live albums, Joan Baez in Concert 1 and 2. By 1962, Baez was honored with a feature on the cover of Time magazine. Although Baez was primarily an album artist, a few of her singles garnered impressive ratings, with the first being her 1965 cover of Phil Ochs' There But for Fortune. It was a mid-level chart hit in the US and Canada and a top 10 single in the United Kingdom. Perhaps the most interesting thing about Joan Baez's music style was that she refused to be caged in a box. The American singer experimented with different styles of music and was still able to come up with something new and refreshing every time. Some of Joan's most successful albums to date include Any Day Now, Farewell Angelina, Diamond and Rust, and Blessed Are. Another uncommon reason why Baez found such early success in her music career was that she was one of the very few songwriters who used their fame for the protection of human rights and peace. This made her music naturally extended beyond lovers of folk music. The early 2000s saw Joan Baez involved in a lot of stage performances with very few studio recordings, but her 2008 album, Day After Tomorrow was her relaunch into stardom. The album was her first charting record in nearly 3 decades. Everything was all nice and quiet until Joan released her first song in 27 years through her Facebook page. Nasty Man was Baez's protest song against Donald Trump, and it sent a shockwave around the industry. 3 days later, Joan was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Her last successful production was the album Whistle Down the Wind, released on March 2, 2018. The album charted in many countries, earning a Grammy nomination. Joan Baez proved beyond doubt that she had what it took to dominate her industry, but the story, I am afraid, was not quite the same in her personal life. Joan's first industry romance was with the man who gave her the stage, Bob Dylan. They met for the first time in 1961, and although Joan would later turn out as the most successful, she still recognized Dylan's role during her years of obscurity. To pay back, she would record a few of his songs and also have him join her on stage during performances. Their relationship blossomed, but unfortunately, it was not going to last. While there are so many reasons for their breakup, many people believe that the major reason was that Dylan couldn't be as enthusiastic about politics as Joan wanted him to be. Baez would apologize years later for pushing Dylan that hard to become who he was not, but that was going to fix very little. Following their breakup, they recorded many songs about each other. Joan revealed that she composed To Bobby, Diamond, and Rust, Winds of the Old Days, all in memory of her ex-lover. Bob, however, was not as vocal as his ex, but Joan revealed that she believes that Like a Rolling Stone and Visions of Johanna were all inspired by her. It might have left her with a broken heart. Still, Joan said that she is grateful that they got to share such beautiful love with Dylan, and she looks forward to more years of friendship. Joan's next love interest was David Harris, and they met for the first time in jail. In 1967, Joan, her mother, and over 70 women were arrested for protesting in support of young men who refused military induction. It was there that she spoke to David Harris, who, although was locked up in a different place, sneaked out to spend time with her. After the very unpleasant experience, Joan started a steamy romance with Harris, and in 3 months, they decided to start a family. The couple tied the knot on March 26, 1968, but in the early years of their marriage, they would be torn apart by the same thing that brought them together. Harris was arrested after he refused induction into the armed forces, and this frustrated Joan, who was already a few weeks pregnant. He was in prison for 15 months, and by the time he was released, Joan had learned to live without him. Their relationship was strained, and they spent the next 3 months trying to get back to where they left it off. But that didn't work. Eventually, they separated, and their divorce was finalized in 1973. Joan named her child from Harris, Gabriel, and today, Gabriel is a drummer, and he occasionally tours with his mother. Baez also dated American businessman and co-founder of Apple Computers, Steve Jobs. According to Inside Stories, at many points in their relationship, Steve proposed to Joan, but she was just not interested in him enough to marry him. Another reason was that she wanted children, and their ages made it very unlikely. They eventually broke it all off, but Joan claims that they were still close friends until his death in 2011. According to her, they had spent quality time together before his death, and after his death, she had nothing but sweet words and praises for her ex-lover. Joan, who recently celebrated her 83rd birthday, might be too old for another love story, even though she deserves it. But here's another outrageous love story you've probably not heard about. It started when she was a child, and even in adulthood, at the very peak of her fame, Joan just couldn't keep herself out of jail. She fought for civil rights, nonviolence, anti-war activism, protection of human rights, and even gay rights, all of which were strongly influenced by her Quaker upbringing. And with Martin Luther King Jr., it was almost the same story. Their friendship started when Joan got emotional after listening to Martin deliver a speech on nonviolence. And in just a few months, Joan and King would walk hand in hand as they led justice and equality protests on the streets. As to if it ever got deeper than this, only they can tell. But Joan recently revealed that she shared a very special connection with King, and one time she would walk into his hotel room and try to keep him awake with her singing. He called her an angel, and unfortunately, that is all that is known about that. Joan Baez is yet to make any official announcement about her retirement, so her fans look forward to hearing her voice from their speakers once again. Joan Baez, now 83 years old, remains a symbol of artistic expression, and her powerful voice and commitment to social issues secured her a grand spot in the hearts of the people. She relinquishes old age in her mansion in Woodside, California. Baez is said to have an estimated net worth of $5 million. If you enjoyed this video, there's a good chance you'll also enjoy the one showing on your screen right now. Click, enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. See you on the next one.